How's it going, everybody? It's Shinigami here to bring you another world update, and this one, I say we need to be a little bit more careful about how we respond, because the world is watching. Everybody is on their toes, tippy toes, whatever, and they're just waiting for the trigger to be pulled at this point. Now, what do I mean by that? Over the past weekend, Hamas of Palestine, Lebanon, Gaza, all this whole section. Hamas, Palestine of. Hold up, let me get that straight. So, Hama city in Syria attacked Israel, thinking it'd be a smart idea. Granted, Israel did have a warning ahead of time. They just didn't think anything would actually happen. So when something actually popped off, well, Israel responded. I mean, pretty accurately. Now, trying to understand the actual motives of the terrorist group, I'm still delving into that right now. But I'm trying to figure out what their goal is, besides taking Israel. And yes, I understand the conflict that some Muslims have with the Jews, but at this rate and the way they've disrespected, well, not just the Jews, and other countries as well in their beliefs, I mean, it's hard to really paint Israel as the bad guys. But I also don't want to just come through and be like, this might just be another Ukraine situation, because we're seeing videos like this that paint Israel in a bad light. Let's show you this. So this one right here, you got Palestinian children are screaming and running away after hearing bombs nearby them, or near them. You got these people, massive rally in London in support for Palestine, and these were already people that moved from the third world countries. So a lot of the Muslims that left their home country and are now living in France, Germany, the United Kingdom, all these places, well, they support Palestine. And as you see, they're burning the fucking flag, right? So it's wild, to say the least. I mean, look at that. And here was what happened the first day, where you had a tower get hit moments before it got taken down.
Do you know anything about that? What can you report of this day? All right. Yumna, please take cover. If you are in a...
And that was just a warning shot. After an hour, that whole building was gone. Here was some other stuff. It's, again, hard to side with Hamas and the fact that they're doing this shit where they're rounding up just Swedish, German, US citizens, basically anybody that's not from the country that were just visiting. They got caught up in this, and well, they got executed, paraded around the city like a trophy. Innocent civilians, right? Not even people that were armed. So it's complicated, because then also, like, you have people like this that are just off the cusp, fucking reactionary, and I don't like it.
Israel, this is an attack on America, because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
This was an attack on America, she says, when in fact it was not. And for that reason, we must, quote, finish Iran, a nation of nearly 90 million people. What are we watching here? This is not sober leadership. She's a child, and this is the tantrum of a child. Ignorant, cocksure, bloodthirsty. Yet no one in Washington scolded her for it. In fact, they aped her hysteria. Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
What exactly would happen to the United States if we declared war on Iran and started blowing up their infrastructure? Lindsey Graham has no clue what would happen. He hasn't thought it through. He's almost 70 years old and he has no children. He doesn't care. But neither, amazingly, do most of his colleagues in Washington. They're as reckless as he is. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw took to social media to call for what he described as a war to end all wars, as if there is such a thing. But of course, there isn't such a thing. Wars beget more war. The bigger the conflict, the uglier and longer lasting the consequences. See World War I for details. These are not complex observations, but they seem lost on our leadership class. Alone among candidates running for the Republican nomination for president, Vivek Ramaswamy dared to suggest that actually going to war with Iran might not be in America's national interest. And for saying that, Mike Pence immediately denounced him as gutless and unpatriotic or something. But we thought it might be worth hearing more. Vivek Ramaswamy.
What the hell went wrong with U.S. and Israeli intelligence and the Israeli defense that allowed this to happen? Everybody seems to be punting that as a question for later. I think it's a question for now, if you're Israel. I mean, look, I think that Nikki Haley, I disagree with you a little bit there. I don't think she's a child. I think that she is somebody who is, like many politicians, in a position to get wealthier from war. Look at the military contracting business and otherwise. But put that to one side. The message that I would send would be very different. Get to the bottom of what allowed this gaping hole of intelligence and defense to even happen before feeding that same beast. If a doctor told you his job was to keep you from getting cancer and then you got that cancer, don't go trust that same doctor to remove your tumor. They don't let airplanes, when they crash, the pilots or the people who crash the airplane, that airliner is not the one who reviews the black box. And so I think those answers have to come now. That's not a question for later. And I think one of the learnings for the U.S., I think there's a lot of learnings for the U.S., Tucker, but one of the learnings is if that establishment can get it wrong in Israel from a U.S. perspective, that could happen right here at home. And if anything, as an ally, one of the things that we need to wake up to is that we're vulnerable here in the United States to the same. And so we can do some things to prevent.
Beautifully said, Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, that's what I was wanting to try and get to the gist of, right? A lot of these questions that should be answered right now before we even do anything, because as someone who is prone to reacting before they think, this is very good advice. Maybe we should actually wait up a little bit, write down what's going on, and ask these questions to the people. Why was it vulnerable? What allowed the capability of Hamas to attack Israel in such a brutish fashion, and also so easy in a way? Because as we recall from United States history, we have had slip-ups and insurrections before. No, I'm not talking about January 6th. I'm talking about the ones that happened like 9/11, John F. Kennedy. You know, when they said, oh, we should definitely back gold, or our money should be backed behind gold for what we have. And then John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Stuff like that paints a bigger, broader picture of what is going on behind the scenes. He's absolutely correct. The U.S. has no reason to delve into a full-on war with Iran. Otherwise, World War III is on the horizon. Something that we've been hearing about, if you do some research, literally 4 to 5 months ago. We were hearing that there might be a world war going on in Europe, and all of a sudden, we see this happen. You ever seen Lord of the Rings? You remember when Helm's Deep? All of a sudden, there was just that little bit of a weak spot. The fucking Urukai came through, dropped in the bomb. Boom! Immediately, they were fucking panicked, and all of a sudden, the man was on the defensive, even worse than they were before, getting overran. That is what happened in Israel. Someone did a little finicky bullshit, allowed a security breach to either not detect these missiles or not detect what was coming, and boom. I mean, makes sense in my head, but what do I know? Let me know down in the comments below what y'all think is going on. I think we shouldn't be too hasty to attack these folk, because the consequence is going to become more dire than you realize. And from that point, it's going to be A Shinigami signing out. Let me know what y'all think. Good evening, good night, and good morning. See ya.